Now to the loss of a legend. Hockeytown is mourning the death of one of its greats.
Red Wings Hall of Famer Ted Lindsay passed away this morning. He was 93 years old and reportedly in hospice care.
On the ice, Lindsay was known as Terrible Ted, not only for his toughness, but also relentless style of play. But it was off it. He was a philanthropist and gentleman.
He's a Hall of Famer and four-time Stanley Cup winner. His number 7 retired by the Red Wings.
7 Action Sports anchor Brad Galley is here with how Lindsay's legacy is being remembered. And Brad, this is a tough one for Hockeytown.
It is. I mean, he lived such a long life, but such an impactful life. And everybody, like we talked about with Gordie Howe a couple years ago, everybody has a Ted Lindsay story. And today those stories have been pouring through. Ted Lindsay made the hockey world a better place. He made the world a better place. In 2010, the NHL Players Association went as far as renaming its MVP trophy the Ted Lindsay Award because he was the original driving force to give players a voice. An 8-time first-team All-Star, Lindsay brought championships to Detroit. Far from a giant in stature, he lived 93 years, and he lived with a giant heart.
Ted Lindsay's measurements wouldn't suggest he was a prime candidate to become a great hockey player. He was 5'8" and weighed 165 pounds. Yet his nickname was Terrible Ted. 5'8", and the entire league feared him. That's some incredible will. That same will helped him lead the Red Wings to 4 Stanley Cup championships in the 1950s and produce countless memories along Sid Abel and Gordie Howe. Lindsay, one of the smaller players in the league, fought anyone, but fought for everyone. He criticized ownership and backed the players, creating a rift with the Red Wings that led them to trade him, only to bring him back. Maybe the best Ted Lindsay story that encapsulates his time on the ice came in 1956. During the playoffs, a Toronto man called newspapers threatening to shoot Lindsay and Howe at the game. With security on high alert, the game proceeded, and the Maple Leafs took a 4-2 lead. Howe scored to make it 4-3, and Lindsay tied it. Then in overtime, Ted Lindsay scored the game-winning goal and celebrated with his stick, propped as a gun.
I just took my stick and took it like a machine gun and just one standing in center ice, and I just went around the ice. It was one of those spontaneous moments of life.
Much like his lifelong friend Gordie Howe, Lindsay made Detroit his home.
As a hockey player growing up in Michigan, I think he's a man who built Hockeytown and someone that embodies everything, that it means to be a Red Wing.
He and his wife Joanne put their roots down, calling this city their own for 70 years. When he was done with hockey, Lindsay's legacy of fighting continued.
Mr. Lindsay's the type of man, he makes you want to be a better man. And he's just a special guy.
His next chapter involved giving comfort and opportunity to families with autistic children.
Dad's a Red Wing, totally 100% Red Wing.
Ever present at Joe Louis Arena, he watched the Red Wings return to glory, all while they kept a locker stall for him in his honor.
Just being around, I think that's something I'll remember the most. Just whenever you had a chance to be around Ted, it was just great. Just who he was as a person, someone you really looked up to.
Lindsay created traditions in hockey, a pioneer, no doubt. He boycotted his own Hall of Fame speech because families weren't invited. He wanted his wife there, so that changed. The on-ice tradition of carrying the Stanley Cup around the ice, Ted Lindsay started that in 1950. The fans paid his salary, he always said, and they deserved to celebrate the championship with him. A man who changed so much in hockey and a man who changed this city, the landscape of it all, always around the rink. And the coolest part about what the Red Wings have done, there are the statues. They have the manhole cover. They've always kept a locker in their locker room with number 7 Lindsay on it.
I mean, one of the greatest of all time. And it's so important for young players nowadays to really look back at what these guys did. I mean, they really laid down the groundwork. I mean, to be a hockey player, they were pro all the time. They knew how to honor the game. They knew how to play the game. And look at Ted Lindsay. I mean, he looks great for his age there, just before his passing. He's a true icon of the game for sure. I know I always looked up to him.
Well said, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah,
He was a
and he
great
did
player.
so much for our community.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Thanks, Brad. Well, we just got word of the funeral arrangements for Ted Lindsay. Visitation for family and close friends will be held Thursday from 2 to 7 p.m. at Desmond & Sons in Royal Oak. A scripture service will be held at 7.
Public visitation will follow on Friday from 9 until 7 a.m. and then from 7 until 7 p.m. at Little Caesars Arena. A funeral mass for family and close friends is set for Saturday at 10 a.m. at St. Andrew Catholic Church in Rochester. Visitation at that church begins at 9 a.m. And also make sure you stay with 7 Action News and WXYZ.com for continuing coverage of the death of Wings Hall of Famer Ted Lindsay.